So we have all been waiting for it, the glorious moment that the Primarch Roboute Guilliman, avenging son of the God Emperor, finally reunites with his long-lost brother Lionel Johnson. It's been nearly 10 real-life years since Roboute returned, and nearly 5 years since the Lion woke back up, and in the newest 500 Worlds campaign book, we have gotten our first teaser. The Lion has contacted Roboute Guilliman, stating, "Brother, we need to talk." That doesn't sound too happy, so is there a problem? Well, if you have been paying attention to all the new novellas and books we've been getting recently, you would know that both Primarchs are doing a thing that the other really isn't going to like. Roboute Guilliman is building a Space Marine Legion to reconquer the Imperium, and the Dark Angels are slowly revealing the truth that they were a legion all along. Yeah, both brothers have broken the agreements they made 10,000 years ago. They both willy-nilly ignored the Codex Astartes for their own purposes. And the question now arises, is the meeting between these two brothers going to be a happy reunion of long-lost family? Or is there going to be a fiery spectacle where something might get really hurt? Are Roboute Guilliman and Lionel Johnson going to fight each other? The recent lore definitely seems to imply so. What is actually happening within the 500 Worlds? How is Titus faring with his new brutal task? Why is that crazy Necron Destroyer Lord bringing back the literal god of death? And why is a random Mechanicus tech priest trying to awaken a Catan? Because what if I told you, this guy figured out that there is a sleeping Catan under Mars? Well, in today's video, we are going to cover all of that and a whole lot more. As per usual, all sources used will be shown in the bottom left hand corner throughout the video. Besides the 500 Worlds book that every other LoreTuber used, I am going to give you a lot more context with a ton of recent sources, to really make sure we paint the full picture and don't miss a single detail of this story. Alright, enough talking, let's get into the lore. The return of Roboute Guilliman was to mark a shifting tide in the slow fall of the Imperium. A hero of old, returning to command the Imperium's warriors to victory. Yet the horrors that assail the Emperor's realm are endless. The light of hope gutters as defeat follows defeat, but Guilliman has refused to let despair set in. He has commanded the banners of Ultramar to be raised high, for the entire galaxy to see, an act with which he hopes to refuse the encroaching ruin of humanity. Scattered hive fleets prowl the eastern fringe. The Necrons have become a near unstoppable tide of violence. Piracy is at an all-time high, as Xenos marauders, heretic raiders and mutants prey on the most vulnerable of the Imperium. Even Mortarian's plague wars have left Ultramar the weakest it has ever been. In the words of Guilliman himself, he has made a mistake. Stagnation, entropy and despair have gripped his beloved 500 Worlds. The Lord Commander of the Imperium commands his sons to neither underestimate their enemies nor waste their own strength. Ultramar is the Imperium captured in a single microcosm and must therefore be the exemplar in all things. If Greater Ultramar can be rebuilt, its borders expanded, then it will pave the way forward for the rest of humanity. However, these noble virtues and plans represent only one side of the story. In the 500 Worlds lore book, Roboute Guilliman commits a massive sin in his efforts to rebuild his realm. When he announced that 9 chapters would join the Ultramarines in the defense of Ultramar, diplomats and delegates from distant worlds labeled Guilliman as a legion builder. An heir to a planetary governor was outraged. His family has ruled his homeworld for 3,000 years, a decree sanctioned by the High Lords of Terra themselves. Now, Guilliman intended to replace him with his own sons. Ultramar would now be governed by 4 Tetrarchs and several Space Marine chapter masters, instead of the traditional human planetary governors. Guilliman holds the title of Lord Commander, yet is he not violating the very rules he enforced upon the Imperium 10,000 years ago? First the unnumbered sons, now the shield chapters. Guilliman keeps building legions. Of course, all of Guilliman's detractors were mortals, men and women who dedicated their entire lives to serving the Imperium. The Primarch tried to listen, but was quick to strike back with his own counter-arguments. Ultramar will be defended by the Shield chapters. Calling them a legion is just semantics. These people have to listen to him. He intends to save them all. And besides, he speaks with the absolute authority of the God Emperor himself. His final words on the matter were telling his detractors that they simply did not understand the situation. These changes would benefit everyone. Governors must look beyond their own borders to see the crumbling Imperium. With the Primarch's master plan in place, Ultramar will be reconquered, and from there, the reconquest of the wider galaxy can begin. So that is Roboute's current standing in Ultramar. You will listen to him, and you will be protected by Space Marines and the Ultramarian Auxilia, whether you like it or not. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Lion has reawakened, and he is ready to talk to his brother. Let's get into it. A message has been sent. This message was so unimaginable that a Vox adept could not believe it was real. A tech Majos and a senior Majos both stepped in to confirm it on all official levels and send it to Nova Marines Captain Halfros in hopes that it would reach Guilliman himself. This was a message from the Fortress Monastery of the Dark Angels. The codes it bore were of the highest level and practically 10,000 years old. The Primarch Lionel Johnson has stepped out of the pages of history, and he needs to talk to his brother. This moment will mark the first time in 10,000 years that two loyalist Primarchs will meet. Two brothers who remember the Emperor and Imperium of old. Guilliman is exhausted, so is the Lion, and this meeting will be a sight for sore eyes. But I believe their meeting will be anything but pleasant. The Lion and Guilliman never had a close relationship during the Great Crusade, and during the Horus Heresy, their relationship soured even further. To help you better understand how the Lion and Guilliman view each other, I will quickly summarize their original story arcs. For the following section, I am going to condense a bunch of novels and articles into one quick section, just to make sure we stay on track. Lionel Johnson would travel to Ultramar when the Tramus Crusade ended. He was not sure if his brother was a traitor or a loyalist. In any case, he was going to find out what Guilliman was doing and, if need be, bring him to justice. Thankfully, instead of two loyal legions destroying each other, the two brothers discussed, disagreed, but would work together to continue everything their father had built. When Sanguinius arrived, they would create Imperium Secundus, essentially a brand new Imperium with a Sanguinius Emperor of Mankind. But this alliance had its issues. The Lion, for example, bombarded Macragge in an attempt to kill Curse, which led to Guilliman banishing him from Ultramar. The three brothers would meet again and dissolve Imperium Secundus the moment they found out Terra still existed. Lionel Johnson would attack the homeworlds of the traitor Primarchs, and Guilliman would create an opening for Sanguinius to arrive at Terra and bring a massive retribution force to reinforce the loyalists. After the siege has ended, Guilliman and the Lion meet again on Terra. The two Primarchs quickly find themselves at odds over the next course of action. The Lion advocates for launching a new crusade to hunt down the traitors, similar to what Rogel Dorn has proposed. In contrast, Guilliman prioritizes freeing Mars and is prepared to use manipulative political tactics to achieve his goals. I have covered a bunch of the details as to why, how, and what in my video covering the ashes of the Imperium, but essentially, the Lion respects the outcome of the corrupted vote and then starts purging the heretics in the Sol system, all the while helping Dorn in figuring out if the Chaos Gods still existed or not. So when we last saw Guilliman and the Lion talking, things were shaky. On the one hand, the Lion is willing to swallow his pride to work together with Guilliman, but on the other, there's an undeniable level of mistrust and memories of vile betrayal. There is a chance that this mistrust either grows or disappears as the scouring moves on, but for now, things are looking pretty bad between the two. We do know for a fact that the lion breathed a sigh of relief when he found out he wasn't the only Primarch still alive. I personally don't think the two Primarchs will have a civil war or do something that leads to that, but it will not be an easy reunion. Guilliman has made many mistakes during the scouring, and sadly, he has not fully learned his lesson yet, so perhaps now, with everything at stake, it is the job of his older brother to make Roboute truly learn from his mistakes. The final thing I want to touch on is pure speculation with zero evidence. The lion telling Guilliman, and I quote, "Brother, we need to talk," could also be a reference to a new threat that requires both of them to work together. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's take a look at Roboute Guilliman's full Ultraplan. How is he going to save Ultramar? What role does Titus play in all of this? And how are 10 chapters going to take down multiple awakening Necron empires? To reconquer Ultramar, Guilliman has created a master plan, or as I like to call it, his Ultraplan. First, Guilliman split his realm into 5 segments, one ruled by Marnius Calgar from Macragge, and the other 4 divided over 4 Tetrarchs that I will cover in a moment. Next to these 5 segments, there are 10 chapters total that actively protect this realm. It is very important to note that commanders like Captain Titus only controls Ultramarines, but the Tetrarchs themselves have Astartes under their command from all 10 chapters. To further support these forces, the Ultramar Defense Auxilia and Defense Fleet have been mobilized unlike ever before. Before the return of Guilliman, the Auxilia primarily defended Ultramar, and occasionally an Auxilia regiment would join the Imperial Guard. More often, however, they would accompany the Ultramarines on their missions. It is essential to understand that the human commanders of these forces are trained in both standard Imperial tactics and the Codex Astartes. Outside of the Space Marines, studying the Codex Astartes is quite rare. For instance, within the Schola Progenium, only recruits destined to become commissars are taught specific sections of it. The mortals who are now involved in the reconquest of Ultramar play a crucial role in maintaining the ground secured by the Astartes. In Titus' strike force, for example, he has the 30th Macragge Defense Auxilia under Legatus Minervas, along with a dozen other regiments. Additionally, he commands the Emperor-class battleship Magnificent Enthroned to lead his fleet elements under Commodore Silva. Guilliman has issued orders to his sons, complete with a list of contingencies and backup plans, designed to help them overcome most, if not all, challenges in conquering Ultramar. Also, to summarize the Shield chapters, we have the Ultramarines. I am not explaining them as I already made a full deep dive on them recently. We have the Sides of the Emperor, who have a deep hatred for the Tyranids after losing Sota. We have the Silver Skulls, who are a savage chapter that specialize in assault and siege tactics. The Doom Eagles, who embody everything it means not to fear death. The Nova Marines, who strictly adhere to the Codex as a fleet-based chapter. The Aquiloan Brotherhood, that unleashes brutal massacres against Chaos worshippers and those who wrongly venerate the Primarch. The Praetors of Ultramar, who study the tactics of other chapters to better understand the Codex Astartes. Yeah, all of them are Ultramarine successors and are fully devoted to the Codex Astartes. The Sons of Auror are named after who they believe to be an ancient Ultramarine hero and have specialized in stealth operations. The Reborn, on the other hand, manage to be their opposites as they have a talent for armored warfare. Our final chapter is the Avenging Sons. This chapter has actually been rebuilt with the Ultima founding, as they were originally believed to have been destroyed. But one must ask oneself this: is Guilliman not breaking every rule he made 10,000 years ago? Is he not rebuilding a legion in anything but name? And more importantly, will this lead to conflict with a lion, or must he swallow his pride, since his own green sons are no different? Well, for our first excerpt, Roboute Guilliman seems to have made enemies within the Ordo Astartes, the part of the Inquisition that makes sure legions can no longer exist, as seen in Titus 500 Worlds. You were right about Numaris. It irks me to admit it, even along so secure a channel as this. I was so sure this time, so sure I had the evidence for the greatest transgression of the chapter since the Scouring. It is another failure to add to the others. I have amassed a trail of signal data from the evasion of the tide at Evander, ready to be connected to the Doom Eagles, only for the perpetrator to be the sickening governor and her unholy family of corpse eaters. I had the diversion of selected mutants at simpler dockyards ready to prosecute, everything pointing at the so-called Ultramar Defense Auxilia, when I found Juste of the Ordo Xenos ready to pounce on a gene-stealer cult at the heart of the matter. I know, as the God Emperor is my witness, that this massing of strength by the Lord Commander, this so-called reclamation, is the unholiest and most subversive seizure of power the Imperium has known since Van Dyer's reign. I will find it, you can be sure. If I have to execute every demon worshipper, burn every witch, and kill the last Xenos to clear away these impediments obscuring the picture, I will show the galaxy what Guilliman has been hiding. I will show everyone what he is. Signed, K. Whoever Inquisitor K of the Ordo Astartes is, he is definitely going to be an issue for Guilliman in the future, which is even worse when you read the following report from the Doom Eagle's apothecary known as Morpha, sending the following message to the Tetrarch of Protoss. Captain, I report the final installation of the Cryo Vaults, Stasis Theaters and Crytologic Laboratorium within the Bastion of Woes. With the aid and resources of the Primarch's other sons, we are nearing completion of the secondary Apothecarian. Its establishment will increase tenfold our capacity to produce new Battle Brothers, that they may strengthen your strike forces and join the rest of us on the somber path of duty. That we must work here in so newly dedicated environments where the shadow of death has not yet embedded itself does not sit well with me. Yet we all have our burdens. I do not know how long it will be before we can once again reach Gatis 2, if indeed our companies ever will again. But I am grateful for our honored status as a shield chapter of the Primarch. True, many of our battle brothers fight and die still, beyond the Great Rift, but now we possess a mission worthy of the chapter. May the path to your coming death be paved with the bones of your enemies. So, is Guilliman rebuilding a legion? Yes he is. However, it won't be an exact replica of the legions from the Great Crusade. Instead, it appears that Guilliman plans to establish a force with temporary objectives, which he will eventually divide into new chapters once those goals are achieved. It is also important to note that the Lion is currently traveling to Protoss, where he will have his first interactions with the Doom Eagles and their brand new second Apothecarian. But has the Lion any right to be upset? After all, Asriel has been known to joke about the very well hidden fact that the chapter masters of the Unforgiven obey his commands directly, as in the Dark Angel chapter master can call upon all of the Dark Angel successors as if they were his own companies. The Dark Angels only ever agreed to the Codex Astartes to avoid suspicion, and every single chapter of the Unforgiven will obey the commands of the Lion. Currently, besides the Dark Angels, the Lion travels with the Consecrators, Guardians of the Covenant, and the Angels of Redemption. Remember, when the Dark Angels attacked Vashtor, they brought with them at least 6 other chapters who followed Asriel's orders. We also know that since his reunion with his sons, that the Lion uses his forest walking abilities to fight alongside and help all of his successor chapters, traveling back and forth through Imperium Nihilus. To catch you up to speed with what the Lion has been doing, he continues to hunt and fight champions of chaos, and while his sons continue to hunt the fallen, he sometimes intervenes personally, where he will execute a fallen or allow them to become one of his newly formed Risen. The sons of Lion L. Johnson have also seen these Risen join their ranks, and the addition of the new and mysterious Inner Circle companions, while not outright stated, I personally believe that the Inner Circle companions are the same Risen, as both acted as the Primarch's bodyguard. Due to their experience, these warriors are truly frightening on the battlefield. They even guard other high-ranking Astartes. When the Lion fought Vashtor and Angron, many Risen would sacrifice themselves so that Dante, Azrael and their respective forces could evacuate. So is the Lion able to call Guilliman out on building a legion? He certainly does not follow the Codex Astartes himself, but unlike Guilliman, the Lion leaves the Dark Angels regularly to command one of his successors directly. Maybe when the two brothers meet, we will get to see a massive change to the Codex Astartes. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think will happen when the two brothers finally reunite. Now moving on from those two ancient Primarchs, let's take a look at the 500 Worlds campaign book itself. What's going on in there? Let's take a look at all the new lore we got from this awesome new book. So it is time to take a quick look at the 500 Worlds themselves. First of all, the 500 Worlds is a title, not a description, meaning that indeed at the top of Ultramarian power, Ultramar had way more than 500 worlds, and with the new lore, it is made very clear that Guilliman intends to go far beyond that number. Now that his realm has been divided into 4 tetrarchies, Roboute first wants to deal with the damage left by the Plague War. This will see his forces expand to gain footholds in valuable worlds, so that when this stage is complete, they can reach into the darkness beyond, without the threat of collapsing supply lines behind them. This plan will require the reconquest of hundreds of worlds, and even bringing already Imperial held worlds into the realm of Ultramar, through mostly aggressive negotiations. It seems insane, and it kinda is, but currently, the Ultramarines are literally taking Imperial worlds and forcing Ultramarian rule onto them. In the novel Archmagos, Tetrarch Felix laments how he had to kill a loyalist governor who did not want to join Ultramar. But it is all done for the betterment of the Imperium, right? In any case, the goal should have been impossible to reclaim so many worlds. But Guilliman's plans have somehow succeeded in most cases. But first, let's discuss the Tetrarchs in more detail. During the Great Crusade, Ultramar was divided into 4 realms, with Khald nearly becoming a 5th. However, the Horus Heresy put an end to that possibility. Now, Roboute Guilliman is attempting to achieve his seemingly impossible tasks by strategically dividing both his enemies and his own forces. In northern Ultramar, the world of Conor is governed by First Captain Agaman. In my recent deep dive into the Ultramarines, I mentioned that many of Agaman's brother captains do not believe he deserves his rank. However, he's currently proving them very wrong. Agaman is leading his battles from the front, while simultaneously commanding the entire war zone. Not even Titus could manage such a feat, which makes it clear that Agaman is silencing his critics. Protoss is located in the western marches of Ultramar, where Captain Baltus of the Doom Eagles has been placed as the current Tetrarch. The Doom Eagles have a dark reputation, and Baltus drives his forces very hard. Many mortals complain that they cannot keep up with the speed of their Tetrarch. Andermung, on the other hand, falls under Tetrarch Porten, a captain of the Genesis chapter. Andermung is the southern front of Ultramar. While this is the smallest front, it is a nightmare to deal with, as it is filled with a labyrinth of warp routes and many pirate havens. Our final tetrarchy is Vespator under Decimus Felix, who is Guilliman's equerry and 11th captain within the chapter. As the Ultramarines don't actually have an 11th company, Felix instead commands a demi-company consisting of warriors from each shield chapter, known as the Chosen of Vespator. With Vespator being the Eastern Front, it is the biggest and hardest to conquer of all tetrarchies. To make matters even worse, the last time we saw Felix was him leaving to go fetch Belisarius' call, and so most of the Vespator front is now commanded by Captain Titus and Captain Fabian. Honestly, this has to be very frustrating for Titus. He and Agaman were both recalled from the Fourth Tyrannic War to their duty in Ultramar, and then one of the Tetrarchs has to leave on a side quest. As Master of the Watch, Titus is also responsible for the defense of Ultramar as a whole. Outside of the Shield Chapters and Tetrarchs, the only other captains within Ultramar are Fabian of the 3rd Company, Ventress of the 4th, Areos of the 6th, and Talos of the 10th. Other companies are already stretched thin across the Imperium, or might have disappeared fully beyond the Great Rift. Even the Master of Sanctity, Cassius, is just beyond Ultramar, where he is terrorizing the Tyranids. To summarize, the Ultramarines are pushed to their very limits. Each member is fighting solo, struggling to support their battle brothers as they confront endless hordes of enemies. The only relief that Titus truly finds is in the fact that the men and women of the Ultramar Defense Auxilia and Fleet are among the very best in the Imperium. When Titus finds himself in a difficult situation, his trusty Auxilia is always there to back him up. And we have yet to address the major issue of, the bringer of death himself being reawakened. Across the entire galaxy, the Imperium is being faced with a dawning horror as it realizes just how many dormant Necron tomb complexes are hidden across its worlds. Each time one of these tombs awaken, it is an apocalypse that can lead to entire sectors being lost in the blink of an eye. The Ultramarines are no strangers to this threat. They have even faced the horror of a Nightbringer before, but nothing could ever prepare them to face a fully reconstructed one. Catan already are immensely powerful beings as shards, but the power of a full Catan has not been seen since the War in Heaven, and of the Catan, few are as feared as Azagoroth the Nightbringer. This Catan traumatized all living beings, to the point that he has become the embodiment of death for many sentient species, including humanity. The Eldari call him Callus Ra, humanity calls him the Grim Reaper, and now someone is genuinely trying to bring him back. For the Necrons, this being is their boogeyman. Necrosor Amentar is the one Necron feared by entire dynasties. Some say he was the first of the Destroyer cults. His original name might even have been forgotten. Where Amentar goes, he spreads madness, making others fall into killing psychosis. He wants to spread the Destroyer cult and Flayer plague. He is a being of total madness, with a burning hatred for all living beings. When Titus fights Amentar on the world of Nova Magnor, the Necrosor already corrupted the local cryptex to create more legions of destroyers and flayed ones as they fought. Currently, the Silent King lets the Necrosor run rampant, his actions causing both Necrons and the Imperium much grief. The Silent King intends to let this happen as he conducts his civil war with the Sautak dynasty and battles with the Imperium in the Nephilim sector. But why does the Necrosor want to restore the Nightbringer? Well, the Necrosor, like all destroyers, wants to eradicate all living beings in the galaxy, but he considers his efforts and those of other destroyers to be insufficient. So what better way to kill all life in the galaxy than to restore the very Catan of death? To the Necrosor, the Nightbringer is practically a god again. To bring him back, he hunts for every shard of him in the galaxy. To some, the Necrosor's crusade seems random and unguided, but in truth, he keeps finding and crippling tomb worlds where these shards can be found. He cares little to repair ancient gateways. He cares little for actual lasting wars. Amentar only wants to share the logic of death with the Nightbringer. By the standards of the other Necrons, Amentar is an insane fool who will doom the entire galaxy. The Catan were betrayed after all, and if brought back to full power, why would they not have vengeance on the Necrons? Some Necrons, however, have chosen to join the Necrosor willingly, going against the propaganda the Silent King shares with the other dynasties. The Necrosor also has moments of sanity, where he creates his grand plan and even holds court. This court is known as the Oblivion Court. It is filled with devotees of Amentar. Among them are the Scorpic Lord Nesferata the Flayer, Nemesor Anutek, and the Cryptek Cabals of the Hyperrank Conclave. Some within this court are utterly lost. Others like Anutek fight to remain in control of their will. Currently, we know the Necrosaur has at least 3 shards of the Nightbringer, as Titus had to deal with them on Nova Magnor, and they caused havoc on 3 different fronts at once. For now, the shards remain bound, as while even a single unbound shard could cause galaxy-wide destruction, the Necrosaur wants to witness the majesty of Azogoroth in his full glory. The Silent King hopes to defeat Imhotep first and then deal with Amentar, but the question remains if he will be able to stop the ultimate doom of the galaxy in time. To make matters significantly worse, the Imperium, at least Titus, who is an expert Xenos hunter, has no idea what Amentar is doing. They combat him and his legions like they do all Necrons. But Titus does know something is wrong, and something is going to happen. It also does not help that canonically within the Mechanicus, there is a sect of tech priests who worship the Catan as true angels of the Omnissiah, and that because of this cult, a crazed Archmagos gave one of the most powerful Nightbringer shards in existence to Amentar for free. Alright, this does require a bit of explaining. Archmagos Contraverant Whitbor Oct is a cultist of the shattered Martian deity known as the Dragon. He and his fellow cultists believe that the Dragon, specifically the Void Dragon Catan, alongside the other Catan, are angels of the Omnissiah. This cult operates secretly on Mars, while Archmagos Oct openly hunts and destroys heretics. Interestingly, he's actively killing other members of the Adeptus Mechanicus for using Xenotech or worse, even though he himself worships the Catan as divine beings. He has joined Titus on Nova Magnor in hopes of discovering more shards of the dragon or its kin, with the intention of freeing them. However, when he attempted to escape from the shard of the Nightbringer, the Ultramarines on Nova Magnor thwarted his plans, leading to some very dire consequences. Archmagos Oct failed to open a vault, and something like a Necron computer virus infected him. In his religious madness, he wanted to give the shard to Amentar in hopes that the Necron would unleash the shard. He was not sure if this was the Omnissiah guiding him, his own opinion, or the virus in his mind. In any case, Amentar walked away with one of the most powerful shards of the Nightbringer in existence and killed Archmagos Oct without a second thought. So, the current issue with the Catan has doubled. On one hand, we have insane tech priests wanting to unleash the Catan from their prisons, either not caring or not understanding what happens next. On the other hand, we have Amentar trying to rebuild the Nightbringer, the god of death itself. Honestly, this is one of the most insane plotlines I have ever seen in 40k, and I hope we do not have to wait 10 years to see it continue. But what do you think of all of this? What is the meeting between Roboute and the Lion going to look like? Is Roboute actually rebuilding a Space Marine Legion? And what is your opinion on the reforging of the Nightbringer? The first time in the lore that we see a Xenos species actually succeed in reawakening a god. Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.